Good morning. I'm Sadani Kulatunga. First of all, I'd like to thank the organizing committee for giving me this opportunity to present at your conference. Today, I'll be talking about a paper titled Obstacles Faced by Women in Urbanized Areas in Kandy District related to the food crop cultivation. We will be discussing the introduction, materials and methodology, results and discussion, and the conclusion. Now let's move on to the introduction section. Women's kitchen gardens or homestead plots are frequently overlooked when it comes to agriculture, yet they play a significant role, particularly in terms of dietary diversity and in terms of in certain cases, women also raise a significant portion of the household main cereals or root crops or sometimes even vegetables. But women's contribution to subsistence production is counted as unpaid family work. And it is estimated that in Sri Lanka, over 56% of women work as unpaid family workers, and they mostly engage in post-harvest production, planting, and weeding. It is rare that they participate in value addition or paid agricultural work in urban areas. And as half of the population in our country is women, it is important to look at their potential in urban farming to be better prepared for the uprising of the food crisis that our country is facing. And in this diagram, you can see that 65% women in Asia participate in agriculture, while it is 75% in sub-Saharan Africa. But even though in sub-Saharan Africa and other parts of the world, they have sufficient research on the challenges women face, but this data in Sri Lanka and Asia is very low. So when we look at the need of urban farming in Sri Lanka, as we are all well aware, the food prices is rising and our country is facing a food crisis, and malnutrition rates of especially in young kids is rising. So it is important to see a change in the way we see agriculture. Urban agriculture can increase access to healthy and locally grown food sources, and it can provide a flexible source of income, and it can cut family food costs, aiding the family's economy. And it can also improve the environmental health and climate resilience, and it can minimize the impact of urban heat island effects. So I have prepared a list of challenges from literature gathered, where they have tested in other countries what are the challenges the women farmers are facing. Credit facilities, lack of land, farm input and seasonal rain, as well as inadequate agricultural services and policy changes were found to be one of the key factors in other countries. So now let's look at the materials and the methodology. After identifying the research problem, I have developed the objectives and scope of the study. That is to identify the challenges women face in urban farming and prepare a matrix ranking. And primary data were gathered by observations and interviews. I have visited 10 women farmers home gardens, and I have went to 3 commercial farms, Hadavima, Varapitiya, and Gannurva, where I have distributed 150 surveys, and I have received 70 answers. After curating, only 66% was deemed useful for the analysis, and the analyzed results were discussed and documented. So after gathering the survey back, it was identified that most of the participants were from Akurana, Gagawata Kurale, Kundisala, and Fatehewahata Pradeshya Sabhas. So when we look at the socio-demographic data of the participants, The target population was consisted of one women farmer per household. So only women farmers were selected for the questionnaire to be distributed. And the marital status, when we look at the marital status of the 66 participants, 80.3% were single, while the rest was married. And it was identified that the most number of family members in a single household was 4 or 5. And it was discussed that most of the women farmers have sat for their GCE levels, and the percentage was 43.9, while 28.8% had a degree. So then it was discussed what was their favorite method of urban farming, whether it was backyards, rooftops, or balconies. It was identified, even though they preferred having backyards, the convenient method was rooftops or balconies because of the land insufficiency in urban areas. So now I have prepared the matrix ranking. Here, the lack of land was ranked as the first most pressing challenge, while pests and diseases was ranked the second. The third most pressing issue was the animal disturbances, and I have actually selected the most pressing 7 challenges here, and I have ranked them accordingly. Lack of sufficient land was likewise listed as the top issue, facing by 32%, 32 participants, which is 48.5%, while secondly, 9 people, and thirdly, 3 people have ranked it as their second and third issues, respectively. And even though land was identified as one of the major issues, gardens have voted against owning more land due to the time constraints they face. And it also should be noted that that the farmers in this study area ranked financing as one of the least important obstacles. Most of them have spent some money on preparing and maintaining the initial stages of their urban farm in the corona era, where they have not paid for labor. And they are using organic waste matter as compost. So it is important because in most of the other countries, financing was found to be the most pressing issue that was hindering women farmers from engaging in urban farming. So the seasonal rainfall and pests and diseases, animal disturbances, and lack of land were all issues that can be solved by very easy methods. But for them to have this knowledge on these issues and ways of solving them, they should have advocate agricultural extension services, which was lacking in this area. And it is also should be noted that having proper education on other farming methods like vertical farming, hydroponics, aquaponics could aid them in pursuing their agricultural activities further. And women contribute significantly to the growth of the national economy. They make up more than half of the country's human capital and have a major impact in agricultural output. It is important to recognize their importance and overcoming the obstacles agricultural development and productivity is facing. Farmers are usually typically seen as male. In literature also, it is mentioned as his family, farmer and his family. But it is important to be more conscious about the women's participation in this and involve them more and more in agricultural services and agricultural programs. Thank you.